Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Good to see you all here. Let's start tonight by silencing your cell phones. Is that done?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Are you ready to start the first assembly of 2018?
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. We'll start with students of the month from the middle school. I will call you up in groups. Once I call your name, please receive your certificate from Corey or Mary, and then stand to my right, and we will acknowledge you. Would these students please come up? Student of the month for middle school strings, Arwen Croman. Student of the month for middle school choir, Hannah Weinstein and Andre Carriaga. And students of the month for middle school basketball, Lance Dovin and Satcher New. Let's acknowledge these students. Thank you. Would the next group of students please come up? Student of the month for student services, Andrea Carriaga. Students of the month for middle school student council, Clementine Sapli and Monte Saez. And student of the month for academics, Zahar Rotman and Joseph Gentili. Let's give them a hand. Now we will acknowledge students of the month from the upper school. Come up when I call your name. Student of the month for scientific research, Janae Ariano Desire. Students of the month for student services, Andres Garcia and Danchi Lee. And students of the month for student council, Allison Wallace and Jake Kugler. Let's give them a hand. Would the next group of students please come up? Student of the month for intermediate conditioning, Sam Brisnahan. Student of the month for JV basketball, Luis Luau. Student of the month for girls basketball, Jessica Shu. Students of the month for cheerleading, Martha Cervantes and Hadar Ezra. And student of the month for varsity boys basketball, Luca Marazzo. Let's give them a hand. Would the next group of students please come up? Student of the month for ceramic arts, James Gentili. Students of the month for honors art, Jake Kugler and Daniela Porras Scholes. And student of the month for strings, Dante Chacon. Help me acknowledge these students. Would the next group of students please come up? Students of the month for music, Lorelei Oman and Sophia Lin. Students of the month for varsity choir, Sophie Q, Jessica Shu, and Yasmin Kadada. Let's give them a hand. The next group of students is receiving Student of the Month for Academics. Please come up when I call your name. Student of the Month for Academics: Cynthia Zhang, Angel Martos, Brianna Solomon, Simon Yen, Raina Schofield, and Lorelei Oman. Let's give them a hand. The next group of students is also receiving Student of the Month for Academics. Please come up when I call your name. Student of the Month for Academics: Finley Giffen, Sarah Holyfield, Jessica Shu, Riley Croman, and Allison Wallace. Let's give them a hand. The next group of students would like to share some of their recent successes from doing the Delphian program. Please come up, Timson Lee and Pruitt Carl.
I would like to talk to you guys tonight about my change in viewpoint on my academic studies. In the beginnings of September 2017, I was doing a course called Elements of Style. Elements of Style is a writing course which has about 30 essays you need to complete in order to finish the course. At that time, my intention was to get through the course as quickly as possible, and I wasn't really focusing on the understanding part. As a result, I rushed through it and didn't get everything out of it that I should have. Long story short, I had to redo pretty much the whole course. In addition, when I redid the course, every drill had to be checked by Paula herself. Yeah, at that moment I thought like my life was over. I was thinking there's no way I'm gonna finish the course. I was thinking maybe I'll never graduate from 7. Now, before I only went for speed. Finishing a course ahead of target was my only goal. While I was redoing the Elements of Style course, I started focusing more on my understanding. I started studying with intention and purpose. Soon after I finished the course, I realized by studying with intention and purpose, I could still complete my courses quickly, but with a much better understanding. That was 4 months ago. I have continued to approach my courses in this way, and I have had a much better understanding on my courses. I have an increased ability to apply what I'm studying in life, and this realization was very important for me, as now I believe I can achieve anything with intention and purpose. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As it goes, the new year led to reflection on past years. It got me thinking about who I was a few years ago, who I am now, the passions I've evolved, and all the connections I've created. This nostalgic recollection brought me back to a few years ago, in 2015. It was my first year in upper school, and I had barely gotten through the first half of the day without crying. I walked to lunch alone, purposely making myself unnoticeable as the flow of lively students rushed past me. I grabbed my food, glanced around the dining room, and realized I didn't know anyone there, and didn't want to make an attempt to know anyone there. I buzzed my plate, which was still full, and went to the bathroom, where I locked myself in the stall for the rest of lunch. That night, I went home and cried to my mom about how miserable I was. Each day, that first year, this unbearable weight of unhappiness slowly crushed me, and I felt alone and lost and purposeless. That recollection then led me into remembering 2017. In January and February, I worked hard with my team members in cheer, and we went first in state. In March, I expanded my passion in photography through an adventurous 3-day trip across Oregon with a group of students and an alum. With a close friend, I went to Delphi, LA. where we made instant connections with students while helping them expand and improve their application of study technology. Through March into May, I took part in the play. By the end, we had a huge cast member family, and we had produced one of the most exciting productions I've been a part of. Towards summer, I created a project of my own, where I studied light and photography and how I can leverage it. This then led into summer, where I got several jobs in photography for businesses across the United States. From here, I helped with a startup business that I became incredibly excited and passionate about, which got me expanding on ideas for future businesses I want to create on through 2018. This led into the school year, when I got the opportunity, along with 20 other students, to go to Texas to help with the damage from Hurricane Harvey. By the end of it, we had become the closest group I've been a part of, and we had created a significant and beautiful impact on the community. From here, I became a middle school dorm captain, and I created a second family for myself and the incredible girls I get to work with, ensuring they never experience what I went through my first year. Finally, towards the end of the year, myself and 2 other students planned and organized the most successful student-run fundraiser, where I got to interact with the entirety of the student body. Looking back, I realized how much I had grown the last 3 years, and how in control of my life I had become. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment when everything shifted, and I hadn't realized it back in 2015, but I was the one creating that unhappiness for myself. Throughout the program, it became clear to me that the only way I was going to gain anything from Delphi is if I created and induced the change I wished to see in myself. It was ultimately up to me whether or not I was going to be happy or feel alone or be passionate about life. The last year, I decided that the most important thing is that we create the world we want to live in, and that it can start with something as simple as our high school education. Thank you.
Please help me welcome the head of standards, Linnea Silver.
Good evening. Good evening. First, I have 2 certificates for students who completed the study handbook, which is our most advanced course in the study technology. Please come up as I call your name. Finley Giffen and Daniela Porras-Scholz. Please help me acknowledge these students. Next, I have the form completion certificates to present. The first certificate for the evening goes to a student who completed the Form 6 entry program, Jessica Sun.
Hi.
Hi.
Form 6 entry changed my life. In China, none of the people in my class studied since life was not interesting and the future was far away. I copied homework from my classmates every day, and I failed my exam every time. I hated math, history, and science classes. I wasted my time with my friends, and I came back home late because my mom nagged at me every second, and I hated my parents. I blamed them for giving birth to me. My teachers met my parents 4 times a week for breaking school rules. My parents decided to send me abroad because that was their last hope to change me. At first, I struggled with my supervisors, and I refused to obey any rules. I hated to listen to people, and I hated adults controlling my life. I was a troublemaker last year, and I got 3 ethics reports in a week. Mary Young and Paige talked with me hundreds of times, and I realized the purpose for my life. I had responsibility to sketch my blueprint. When I heard I was in Paige's class, I felt disaster was coming, and I made a plan about how to struggle with her. We had a lot of conversations, and then I feel like I also could be a good student with great achievement. I knew how to have integrity and agreement with people. It was my first time to think, to work hard, to spend my time and catch up. I love my parents again, and I started listening to people. I thank them so much for sending me here. I also want to acknowledge my faculty advisor, Mary Price, my friends, who all supported me. Mary Young was patient with my faults. I really want to thank Paige, who was tough and set high standards. Her advice were convincing and useful. That's my real talk. Thank you.
This next Form 6 entry certificate is for Sophia Correa.
Hi. In my old school, I read 3 books in the whole school year. In the 4 months that I've been here, I've read 14 books. I used to have to keep up with my classmates, or I couldn't go ahead of them in some classes. I also used to never want to go to study or go to school, but now I actually want to come up here and study. I'm always excited to see what I'm going to learn next. One of the wins I had specifically was that before I came here, I absolutely hated writing essays. Whenever my teacher would say we had to write an essay, I would take forever just to finish it. I would never proofread, so my teacher would return my paper with so many corrections that I needed to make. After doing just 1 course on entry, I started to really enjoy writing essays. My supervisor would return my paper, and I would only have a couple corrections, if any. I would like to acknowledge my supervisor, Michelle, for always helping me, my friends and my faculty advisor, Iniabel, for always encouraging me. Finally, I'm grateful for my parents for always supporting me and for all the work they do to get me here. Thank you.
Next, I have 2 Form 6 certificates to present. The first is for Alan Chow.
Good evening. Form 6 was a significant and useful form for me. I had a lot of wins in this form that all of them helped me grow up. Every time I thought about my past self, I can see the changes that Form 6 program brought to me in my life. I can see the path that I work with hard working. Now I'm more competent to be a good man. In China, we say that a child should first learn how to be a good man, then he can learn how to study. In Form 6, I learned about higher level study skills that I could use in my whole life. I learned how to build better communication with others. I learned about integrity and how to survive better with using it. I also learned how to plan and organize an event which make it a successful one. I learned about American history and its government and how to compare the present with the past. I had a lot of fun doing experiments in science lab, and I learned a lot from them. Lastly, I learned how to write with better writing skills. I can write a research paper and even a scientific report. Most importantly, I learned how to confront and bring attention to my study. All of these skills are very important and help me become a better person. For the practical program, I also had a lot of opportunities to do great projects. I could use the skills I learned in real life and practicing solve problems in real. Now I can take more responsibilities. During my first year, when I was in ESL, I did not work hard at all. I was going around every day. And the second year, I feel the pressure to graduate Form 6 entry, so I started working harder. But this year, I finally realized that I worked harder than the other 2 years combined. It is not only my credit to finish the Form 6 program in just 1 year, but also the credit is for a lot of people. I want to acknowledge my supervisors, Joe and Todd, for starting me on this form, and Larry for pushing me through the hardest part of the form. I want to thank Lila for exam and review, and my FA Mark for always being there, caring about me and my future. I also want to thank my parents for being there, supporting me every day. Lastly, I want to thank everybody who helped me throughout the form, which is the whole Delphi family. Now, I'm ready for Form 7. Thank you.
The next Form 6 certificate is for Alex Howe.
Hi. Hi. Form 6 has been a great journey for me. On this form, I gained a lot of academic abilities as well as living skills. I had lots of wins on this form, and my biggest win is confront. Before, I just simply couldn't confront the people I need to talk to and the works I need to finish. Now, after all the courses on Form 6, I can easily confront them and do them rapidly. For this, I want to thank my soup, Melissa and Crystal, Matthew, my friends, and my parents. Thank you.
Next, I have several Form 7 certificates, and the first is for Lexi Delgado.
Hello. Hi. Form 7 was very special to me. I grew so much as an individual, and my capabilities expanded. I especially loved the practical program and had the most growth in this area. Student council challenged me in the beginning, but I continued to work hard, and I strived for higher goals. I loved every challenge because after, I always became stronger and more capable. It gave me the opportunity to learn how to communicate well, work hard, make goals, and create products. An example of the practical program given me the ability to apply this data was when I studied the course Basics of Organization. I learned about a 7-division organizing board on this course. One night, I was in Kirch's office, and we were talking about it and how important this data was. I then had a realization that I needed to create one, and with his help, I actually applied the data, and I created a 7-division org board for Student Council. I really admired Student Council and working with Corey, and I definitely benefited the most from winning on this. Thank you.
Also completing Form 7, Eva Druskowski.
When I started Form 7, I doubted myself. I made myself smaller than I was. I thought of myself as a student who could never go on the student council until she was at the end of Form 6/beginning of Form 7. So that's what I did. I slid by my Form 6 projects with a bare minimum of challenging projects. I never thought I could take on a project larger than a weekend activity. I never thought I could actually enjoy working hard. I never thought I could be in charge of my friends or others that are older than me. I never thought I could be the captain of a team, let alone 2. I never even imagined myself standing at this podium today without having a nervous breakdown. Last assembly I was up here, I was so nervous, I think I just blanked out my entire speech. On the Form 7 program, they expected more. With the faculty and my friends setting higher goals for me and raising their expectations, I started meeting them. I decided I could do these things. I put that intention there and started chasing my goals. I stopped doubting myself and decided to challenge myself instead. I worked on personal expansion. I took on every single project I was offered and ended up flying through projects much larger than a weekend activity. I took on one huge project after another until the end of the year. Each time I took on a project, I had the intention to get it done as effectively and as best as I could. Now, looking back, I realized who that person was, pushing through these projects and challenging herself on all aspects. That person was me, the real me. The magic of the Form 7 program comes from the personal growth and expansion you see within yourself. Form 7 allowed me to grow into the true capabilities that are mine. They've been there forever, but it just took the Form 7 program to help me find them again. Thank you.
This next student just finished Form 7 earlier today, Yasmin Kadada.
Hello. Hi. So Form 7 was truly amazing, and it helped me grow into a person I've always wanted to be. I remember during my first year, I would always work so hard to act like a Form 7 or 8 student. I wanted to be just like them. Now I'm standing here being exactly what I wanted to be 4 years ago. One of my biggest wins I had was creating interest and enthusiasm for myself in all aspects of my life. I was able to create my love for a subject that I lost interest in, as well as create interest for myself. Create interest in a subject I never even had interest in. As many of you know, I was sick for a majority of last year, which set me back a lot. I'm a person that likes being efficient with my time and achieving my goals quickly as possible, so you can imagine how upsetting that was for me. I ended up having to make a new plan with the help of many different people, and I was totally able to achieve that, so I'm really happy about that. I remember sitting in Kelly's office, talking to her about different ways I could get back into the game, and we planned together, and I was able to overcome that barrier that I was up against. She was like that little light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm so grateful to have her in my life, so thank you for that. I also want to thank Adam for being an amazing person to work with, as well as talk to you about anything. I want to thank Robin for starting me off on the form, Larry for getting me through the tough parts of the form, and Paula for finishing me off. I also want to thank Linnea for the exam and the beautiful review. And lastly, I want to thank my family for always supporting me, specifically my mom. She's always just a call away, even at 1 in the morning, and she's done so much for me to get this education, and I can't express all my love that I have for her. Thank you.
Also completing Form 7, Bryant Zhang.
Good evening. Form 7 was an unforgettable experience for me because I failed a lot. In the past, I wouldn't accept these mistakes because of the pride. But now I learned to restart. I learned to use the tools to fix my problems, and I learned to think with high integrity as well as show my integrity. When a person begins to take more and more responsibility, he needs more courage to be himself. When you're the leader, stop hesitating, just make the choice. In most cases, an immediate order which people can follow is much more effective than spending a long time thinking about a perfect solution. Form 7 provided me an opportunity to look back at my life and let me know who I want to be, which is more important than who I am and what I can do now. For all of this, I want to thank people who helped me throughout the form, especially my mom and dad, for supporting me as always. Thank you.
This next student also just finished Form 7 earlier today, Kat Valise.
Good evening. Good evening. On Form 7, I overcame many barriers, but the biggest barrier I overcame was myself. I always pictured in my head the person that I wanted to be, but I never noticed that I was this person all along. I would hide this side of me, and I never understood why. And it wasn't until the end of Form 7 that I realized that I truly am this person. I am someone who has their ethics in, I am someone who has integrity, and knows the effect and impact I want to create in the future. And there is nothing more beautiful than discovering who I truly am, and that I'm capable of so much more than I thought. I want to thank Alyssa for starting me on this form, and Sam for helping me through it. I want to thank Linnea for the wonderful exam and review. And lastly, I would like to thank my parents. Most of all, I would like to thank my mom. She's my best friend, and we have each other here. And she has made a lot of sacrifices for me to get this education that I'm receiving. And I don't tell you this often, hi Mom, but I appreciate you and your powerful beingness. You inspire me to be a better person, and I love you. Thank you.
The last certificate for the evening is also for a student who completed Form 7, Ashton Olmstead. Thank you.
Form 7 made me feel powerful. I always wanted things my way, but I didn't know how or have the strength to make it happen. In doing all of my amazing projects, student council posts, courses, and experiences on Form 7, I now feel capable and truly powerful. Through my projects and student council posts, I learned how to effectively manage and run positive control. I used to think that the only way to get something done was to yell at someone or do it myself. I realized that I don't have to be mean and make someone feel bad to get a product, and that inspiring fear in someone to get something done isn't a workable solution. But that kindness, compassion, intention, and care is what makes me a leader. I used to be very serious. One day after talking to Corey, I realized this wasn't very fun and that life doesn't have to be serious. When I realized this, life almost instantly became a fun game that I wanted to play. I realized that time and production actually work opposite than you would think. You think that the more you add to your schedule, the less time you have for other stuff. This isn't true. I noticed that the more I added to my schedule, doing things like volunteering, projects, running activities, adding courses, and making harder targets, the faster I could get things done and the more I could get done. Barriers stopped existing completely. On this form, I also struggled with responsibility. Through many talks with Judy, Kayla, and Corey, I realized that I can be responsible for anything, even if it actually isn't my fault. It somehow is, and I can be responsible for it. This gave me a sense of responsibility not only for myself, but for the world, and my responsibility to make it a better place. It was also in Form 7 that I started to love learning. It was because I found a purpose for it. All of it, every course. For the first time ever, studying became something I loved and I wanted to do instead of watching Netflix, scroll through Instagram, and eat burritos in the rec room all night. Studying became a game. Clearing words, doing clay demos, passing checkouts, writing essays, setting and beating targets were all a new game of mine that I loved. I realized that I can learn anything if I have intention and actually intend to learn it. I've had a beautiful experience on Form 7, and it was on this form I became truly ethical, courageous, and learned how to love and have compassion for people and become a leader. I would like to thank Alyssa for starting me on this form, and I would like to thank Paula for having such high standards and for expecting hard work from me and all of her students. It may seem annoying sometimes to correct a paper 5 times, but it is really helpful and I appreciate it a lot. I would also like to thank Kayla and Grant, and I would like to thank Corey for all of her talks that she has with me. You've really inspired me and everybody you talk to. I would also like to thank Linnea and Kelly for exam and review, and my family for the unconditional love and support. Thank you.
Now please help me welcome the Dean for the lower elementary and middle schools, Judy Glensky.
Hello. Hi. So this is the assembly where we name the students who've made the honor roll and the dean's list for the upper school. So I get to tell you about the middle school. First, it's quite an accomplishment to make the honor roll, so I want to tell you what the qualifications are, okay? First, the student needs to have been on or ahead of target for most of the term, and then they're nominated by their supervisor for honor roll because they apply the study methods consistently and well, they're industrious, and they turn in high quality work. They exchange well in the course room by helping others when needed, and they are doing well in any seminars that they're in. So students from the middle school and upper school who make the honor roll, their names are in a plaque around the school that you'll see as an acknowledgement. So we have 3 students on the middle school honor roll this term, so please come up when I call your name. Rowan Bennett, Zahar Rotman, and Imogen Dayton.
Sorry. Okay.
you are. Yes, good. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. Okay, now please help me welcome our Dean, Kelly Hepburn, to give out the Upper School Awards.
Good evening. Good evening. All right, so I'll start by announcing the students on Form 6 who made the honor roll. After assembly, these students will receive their certificate from their school head, but for now, please come up so we can acknowledge you as a group. Emma Aaron, Alex Howe, Daniela Porras-Scholes, Kabira Mann, Juliet Holyfield, Lexi Lorenzini. All right, the next group is for students who qualified for the honor roll on Forms 7 or 8. Please come up. Kevin Yan, Chad Burke, Mac Fellmeyer, Angelica Hangdan, Timson Lee, Joe Paul, Artie Stepanov, Kat Valise, Echo Wu, Bryant Zhang, Maud Al-Qadim, Andy Jaquez, Alan Zhao, and Kiara Gentili. All right, now I'd like another group of students to come up. Ashton Olmsted, Isabella Quintero, Luca Marazzo, Lila Pollock, Emmer Dayton, Pruitt Carl, Kirsten Carberry, Jake Kugler, Talia Morphopoulos, Sophie Q, Crystal Pong, Chloe Rogers, James Gentili, Finn Dayton, and Lexi Delgado. A tight fit. I'll now present the Dean's List for Fall 2017. In order to qualify for the Dean's List, students must meet all of the requirements necessary for the honor roll, and in addition, they must have been an asset on student council or student outreach, making a significant contribution to our community through projects and other practical work. These students will receive a book chosen for them in addition to their Dean's List award. This first book is a collection of the work of the painter Lucian Freud, whose individual style and vision set him apart as one of the greatest portraitists of the 20th century. For Emmer Dayton. The Boys on the Boat is about a rowing team from Washington whose collective heart and work ethic brought them to Olympic gold in 1936 against nearly impossible odds. This book is for Crystal Pong. Lila Pollock is receiving Everything is Illuminated and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, books about exceptional people who are different from the rest of us. Glass Castle is a modern memoir about the author's poverty-stricken upbringing and the strength of character and determination it took to overcome her situation in life. This book is for Ashton Olmsted. This next book reminds all of us how important a teacher can be in someone's life. Tuesdays with Maury is for Luca Marazzo. Passion, ambition, beauty, integrity, and grit are woven throughout the epic novel Shogun. This book is for Finn Dayton. The great biographer Irving Stone wrote The Depths of Glory about Camille Pissarro, the father of Impressionist painting. This book is for Talia Morphopoulos. The Secret Life of Bees is a story about self-discovery and the power of human connection, for Isabella Quintero. This next student couldn't be here tonight, but I do want to announce her and acknowledge her anyway. The book she's receiving has a mix of determination, good humor, and a scientific mind depicted. It's The Martian for Chloe Rogers. We can give her a little hand. This next student is receiving a collection of images and thoughts from one of her favorite adventure photographers, Chris Burkhardt. Distant Shores is for Pruitt Carl. The Prophet, Khalil Gibran's beautiful and spiritual masterpiece, is for Lexi Delgado. This next book demonstrates the power of kindness, compassion, and the strength of good in the world. Wonder is for James Gentili. An incurably optimistic hero is depicted in Don Quixote. This book is for Jake Kugler. In Echo, children who are living through some of the worst of times in the past 100 years of our history are protected and connected by an enchanted musical instrument. This book is for Sophie Q. This last book is about a spirited young girl who has a magic touch when it comes to working with children. Anne of Avonlea is for Kirsten Carberry. Now, as a group, please help me acknowledge our Dean's List students again. These students are invited to a reception at the headmaster's house 15 minutes after assembly ends. You may all sit back down. And now please help me welcome the headmaster, Trevor Ott.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm happy to have you back. Are you happy to be back? Yes. That's great. So I will start off by acknowledging a few student highlights. Will you turn this down a little bit? Would Yamil Morales please stand? The All-State soccer teams were recently announced, and Yamil made second team All-State. Let's give him a hand. Would the robotics team please stand? This team has constructed 2 robots from scratch this year, which they've gone on to use in competition against other teams from across the state. In one of the most recent competitions, the robotics team won second place. Give them a hand. Would Sophia Lynn, Crystal Pong, and Pruitt Carl please stand? These 3 students were in charge of this year's annual student-run fundraiser, the telethon. Their goal was to raise $50,000 for our outdoor program, but they exceeded that mark, helping us raise over $60,000 this year, more than any student-run fundraiser in the school's history. Give them a hand. To add to that off script, the live stream of you all as a student body interacting with each other and coming together to play that game for the benefit of the school was as valuable as the money that you raised. Anybody who watching that instantly understands who you are, and through that, who we are. So why don't you give yourselves a hand? Okay. The 2018 Scholastic Art and Writing Awards were recently announced. There are 3 different categories of awards: Honorable Mention, Silver Key, and Gold Key. Gold Key winners will be judged statewide, and any pieces that win at that level will then go on to a national competition in New York City. Our students received 43 honorable mentions, 21 silver keys, and 23 gold keys. We have here a slideshow of some of that art. If you won an award of any kind, please stand so that we can acknowledge you. Let's give them a hand. I will probably pay for this one for some time, but would Kelly Hepburn please stand? Kelly recently contributed the school's newest and cutest student. Winter Hepburn, her daughter. Let's give her a hand and welcome her back. All right, as I've mentioned several times, it truly was my pleasure to talk to each of you throughout the year about the school's logo, which we have up there. But that discussion occurred class by class and never as a group. So I thought to start things off tonight, I would just summarize what you said to me for the benefit of all of you. You remember I got to sit through that discussion about 15 times, but for all of you it was just once. So this will be twice. So, go back to the logo, please. When we started the discussion at the beginning of this year, I told you that nothing was written about the logo's history, but that logos can represent an awful lot about a group. And so I wanted you to take your experience as Delphi students and define for me what the logo means to you. So here's what you said. You said that the scroll and the quill, we're going to stay on this slide for a while. You said that the scroll and the quill represent how Delphi balances 2 types of knowledge. The type of knowledge that you might receive from a book or from study, and the type of knowledge that you generate yourself through your ideas and your conclusions and your dreams. You talked to me about how you've seen that in the Delphi program, whether that's on a check sheet where you read a page and then you're asked to write an essay describing your conclusions about the ideas that you just studied. You talked about how that can be seen in the practical program, where after studying the theory of leadership, you have to generate your own ideas about its application. And then moving out from there, you described the 4 words that are up there: knowledge, ethics, leadership, and integrity. You then made a connection between the olive branches there, or the laurel wreaths. The laurel wreaths, you told me, represent or remind you of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and victory, and that the correct balance of knowledge, ethics, leadership, and integrity can lead to victory, providing the 2 types of knowledge exist. You remembering all this?
Yeah.
Okay. You also pointed out that the logo is in the shape of a circle, and that a circle has no beginning and no end, and that it is strongest when whole. I challenge you to remove one of those items and still have Delphi represented, and you failed only in that challenge. You built on that at a personal level, I think, to realize that the balance of those things can be different from person to person and from situation to situation. And at the end of the conversation, I felt like you had understood Delphi pretty well. So thank you for that. Tonight, though, is not actually about the logo. What I wanted to talk to you about is something that is not on the logo, but that I think is very much part of the culture of Delphi. Even though Pruitt didn't use the word in her win tonight, I think she was talking about this part of our culture. Alan, finishing Form 6, used the word and talked about it. And Ashton built most of her talk around it. That word is responsibility. So it's not on the logo, is it? All right, well, it does show up in our materials. It's in your student and parent handbook, and it's a small section, 4 paragraphs long, short paragraphs though, and it discusses 2 philosophical paths that an individual can take. One, philosophically believing that they are the effect or the victim of circumstances in their environment, and the other believing fully and truthfully that they cause all effects in their life. That can be described as responsibility as a viewpoint. You get the idea? Your point of view on that path is that you are truly responsible for anything happening around you? Yes. All right, well, I didn't know what else to say about that word, but I happened to get my hands on the dean's list earlier today, and so I interviewed every single one of them. Did you guys figure out that you were the dean's list?
No.
Good. All right, well, I asked each of them a simple question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important has responsibility as a viewpoint been to your success at Delphi and/or in life? I'm going to give you some of the results of that survey work. 4 Dean's List recipients gave responsibility as a viewpoint a 9 in terms of its contribution to their success. But one of them wrote me an email after we talked letting me know that she had changed her mind. She then gave it a 10. So after a recount, 5 of this year's Dean's List recipients gave responsibility as a viewpoint a 10. 4 more ignored the scale altogether and gave responsibility as a viewpoint an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10. And 1 Dean's List recipient saw fit to give it a 15. That individual was your student council president, James Gentili. In the end, the average ranking of importance placed on responsibility as a viewpoint by this year's Dean's List recipients ended up being an 11.2 on a scale of 10. So that's a pretty strong endorsement, isn't it? Yeah. Separately, I asked each of them to briefly tell me why. And I found their answers fascinating, really. Keeping in mind that there is no one course or seminar here that shaped those points of view, just this short mention of it in your handbook, I thought it was remarkable how similar the answers were. And to me, there's no better proof than their words that responsibility as a viewpoint is a common denominator to success in life. There's a lot I could say on the subject from my point of view, but instead I'm going to read you what they had to say. And if they don't like that, well, they'll have to remember that they're responsible for it. So as I read these, feel free to look around and try to figure out who said what. Every time I pause, that will be a new interview. On the victim side, when I found myself being critical of some club or activity, I found that I'd eventually leave it. As I became more responsible, though, adopting responsibility as a viewpoint, I found myself naturally taking action to change the club for the better, being responsible for it rather than a victim of it, adapting the environment to me rather than me to the environment. Without this as a viewpoint, success is really difficult. When I consider myself the victim of any set of circumstances, I always have excuses available. On the other hand, maintaining responsibility as a viewpoint tends to lead me to action. That's Delphi. Responsibility as a viewpoint has also helped me become a leader, because part of being responsible includes seeing and understanding a situation from all points of view. Responsibility isn't blame, it's responsibility. Total ownership for both sides and for all components of any situation. It's the 3rd interview now. If I don't take this viewpoint, I don't get things done. Taking the cause viewpoint of life makes me productive, happy, and effective, where the effect viewpoint has me tumbling like a weed, going with the flow rather than creating it. You can't really be cause without assuming responsibility. I used to see responsibility as a viewpoint in other people, people that were doing well, people that graduated. It wasn't me 3 or 4 years ago, but it is me now. I'm about halfway through. Do you want me to keep reading these?
Yeah. Yes.
Good. I talked about this in my Form 7 speech. That's a giveaway. Even things that aren't my fault, I can be responsible for. It feels good to figure out how I am responsible for everything that happens around me. It puts me at cause. There is always some way to be responsible, which means there is always some way to be at cause. If I don't have this viewpoint, I probably wouldn't really get anywhere. I'd be looking for an excuse rather than getting things done. It's a 10 because I have tried to approach things from victim as a viewpoint. I wasn't successful. And she said that with a big smile. I feel like this affects my life and actions more than anything else. When I'm responsible, I'm cause. When I'm a victim, I'm like a ping pong ball being battered around. When I'm responsible, I'm not looking for who is at fault. I'm not looking for someone to blame. I'm looking objectively at the situation and working to improve it. Adopting this viewpoint was a turning point of who I am and of how I approach life. If I were to make the decision today that I am a victim, it would mark a huge step backwards for me as a person. This one's short and sweet. The student said, "You can't get things done playing the victim. Everything overwhelms a victim." For me, this change of viewpoint is what has allowed me to create my life. Another short and sweet one. There's two more. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything that happens in my life is my responsibility, and anything that happens is no one else's fault. It's simply my responsibility. Me increasingly taking on this viewpoint has led me to caring more and to being more cause over my life, environment, and groups. It has also allowed me to set and pursue some high goals for myself, like changing the world. The last two students I interviewed at the same time. All those other ones were individual. Both of these students, almost in perfect unison, said this. Sometimes people say there is only so much in life that they can control. But I think you should leave nothing to outside forces. You are in full control, and the moment you decide you can't control something, you won't. So how's that, Dean's List recipients? You should probably stand up, and I should thank you for putting it better than I could have put it. All right, so again, even though this word is not on the logo, it is very much a part of Delphian culture. And so much so that I think if you look for it, you'll see it everywhere. I've noticed that you're playing a game to promote the virtues. True?
Yeah.
All right, well, I got my hands on just a few pictures of what you're doing. Let's take a look. Can anyone read those? All right, I'm going to walk over. These were selected at random. I had permission to be off course to work on post, but I used self-control to return to the course room as fast as possible. What is underscored below that?
Leadership.
Okay. The obvious answer is responsibility, but I'll give you credit for leadership. The virtue is self-control. But the point I'm trying to make to you tonight is that I think responsibility, and responsibility as a viewpoint, underscores everything you're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
So this one says, I helped charity clean up spilled tea and helped a student pick up their fallen materials. What's underneath that?
Responsibility.
You're going to get 100% now. What's next? What's next? I decided not to have cheer meeting practice in consideration of the team and the possible sicknesses. The virtue is consideration. What's underneath that? Responsibility. Okay. This virtue is honesty. I told my roommate that I ate her cashews. All right, we could go on and on with that, but I truly don't believe you'll find a single one that doesn't have responsibility underneath. So I encourage you to look for it, to think about it, and to aspire to higher and higher levels of it as you move through your programs here at Delphi. That's about it for tonight, but I look forward to celebrating the opening of our new rec room and little theater with you on Monday night.
All right, thank you for coming to Assembly. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. Wonderful. That is all.